Welcome to the Multiverse Comics podcast. On today's episode, I am yet again out of town. This is one from the archives that we brought back out. We've been waiting to share this one with you. We finally get an episode where Steven and Scott get to talk about one of my favorite TV shows, Star Trek Picard. Enjoy.
So that's what we're gonna do. I guess that's what we're gonna do.
Cool. So, once again,
Hi everyone.
Steven and Scott, or Steven and Scott in the morning nights. Are we doing cats and kittens? Jason is not with us, and I'm going to go on record saying I'm not 100% sure he knew we were doing this tonight. It's Thanksgiving, Black Friday weekend, and
Yes.
he had a lot of family stuff going on, carpet being relaid in the house, moving a child, and all of that. So, once again, we're going to say he's on a mission in Budapest.
There you go. But he just racks up those frequent flyer miles
He does in all those countries that you really can't speak the language, and he doesn't speak anything but English. So, let the spy.
Actually, if he was an international spy,
International man of mystery.
he's got it covered. He's as...
Very unassuming.
No, that's it.
He might have a higher body count than Bond as far as people are stuffed in trash can bags.
He does seem to travel a lot.
Yeah.
So, but yes, no. So he's not here today, and so we are going to have a chat about
Steven finally watching most of Star Trek Picard. Now, for those of y'all fans of the show, remember about a year ago when he surprised me with that he had gotten on and watched Lower Decks after months of begging, bribing, and all of that. And the man moves at his own pace because he has high standards and his time won't be wasted with schlock. And I can appreciate that.
that is just the nicest. You could have just said he's lazy and a flibbity gibbet, but no, we'll go with what you said.
They won't tolerate schlock. Hey, you have a bigger Criterion Collection DVD, Blu-ray than any man I know, so you have taste.
But I've only watched about a quarter of it. This is just these are just. Do you ever? Here we go. The derailing begins already.
That's what the audience pays for.
Did you, Carl Baker? You know who Carl Baker is, right?
The artist?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So he's done some Marvel stuff. He's done some DC stuff that he's famous for, but he's also done a couple of independent things. And actually, one of these days, we should have a proper podcast about Carl Baker because I really admire Carl Baker.
Okay.
His work.
He did some New Mutants, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did some New Mutants, and he was an intern at Marvel, I think in the early 80s.
Okay.
And that kind of led to various gigs and he working on his style. He's fresh in my mind at the moment because I finally found the second volume of his Deadpool Max series.
Forgetting.
So I had the first, because I missed the issues, and
you can't find those.
No, some of them are really hard to find.
Yeah, and then when you do find them, are you paying the mortgage that month, or are you? Yes,
exactly. So I had the first one, and I had the third one, and I always said, well, I'm not going to read them until I find that elusive second one, and I did. And it's so over the top and deranged. David Lapham writes it, Stray Bullets guy, and Carl Baker is just perfect for the art. But what I was going to say is that one of the books that he did on his own is called Why I Hate Saturn, and it's almost like kind of a rom-com with this girl. I haven't read it in probably 20 years, so I'm it's funny because I'm going to remember specifics, but I can't remember the name of the characters. But it's this girl, I believe she's a journalist living in New York City, and her best friend is I think he's an artist, and her sister comes to stay with her, and her sister, she's kind of unbalanced, and she thinks that she is from Saturn.
Okay.
So hilarity ensues. But where I was going with this about the Criterion is that one of the gags in the book, that they're talking about these kind of hip, trendy articles that they write for whatever New York magazine it is. And one of the articles is something like, 20 books that, you can have on your bookshelf that will make you look cool and like intelligent or something like that. So I always think, because I've got these Criterion films, and they're in a stack in my living room. And I'm sure people, oh wow, he's a Truffaut fan. He's always Kurosawa. That's an inspired choice. And it's like, yeah. The only reason why they're there is because 2 times a year Barnes & Noble does the Criterion 50% off sale. And I stopped myself about 2 years ago. But prior to that, I was just going in there and just dropping, I've never heard of this. I will watch that one day, and I haven't. So, and my daughter, she's picked up this habit from me, and she's doing the same damn thing now. Yeah. And so she comes in, she bought the Blu-ray, I think it was of David Lynch's Blue Velvet, and I was like, do you know about this? Do you know about this? I'm just like, I've heard some things, and I'm like, okay. Well, I know that film very well, and I am very interested to know what you're going to think. She still hasn't watched it. It's been months. So anyway, back to the show. We killed, half an hour on that?
Yeah.
Yes, Picard. So you are right. I am kind of a...
Well, and we'll go back. The first season turned you off.
Yes, it did. Actually, that's a really good good starting point.
And now for me, I will watch bad Trek, and I won't try to justify it. I'll just like, okay, it's like watching the Dallas Cowboys. I know what's going to happen, but I'm still a fan because, when you go through the original series, there's about 5 episodes in there that I could...
Spock's brain.
Yeah, Spock, which was my first Star Trek episode.
Oh, gosh.
And
you came back for more.
When I was 9 and Linda Carter was in go-go boots, well, of course I'm going to come back. Yeah, I didn't know anything about story structure. I was just like, that's a woman in a shiny outfit. Then after that, you meet Wilma Deering and Buck Rogers.
The green Aaron Gray.
Yeah, what were you going to do? So, so I watched the first, and this ties into a conversation we have with the store manager up here, who, big Star Trek fan, he loved the first and second season of Picard and despised the third one as fan service. Because in the second season, there is a very interesting story arc that pops up that they don't do anything with because as businessmen, Paramount goes, we got Patrick Stewart back to do season 1. Let's do original stuff. Oh, no one's going to watch it. Go get Frakes, Sirtis. We're going to have to bring Data. We're going to have to do something with Data. We're going to pepper in. We'll get a little original. Oh, that got really good ratings. Let's bring Q back. Okay. And also for a group that was trying to leave certain villains behind, this outfit really did bring, if y'all have already seen it, Steven is 2 episodes away from finishing season 3, so I'm not going to spoil some of the big bads, but it's funny to me that you have them sprinkled out through all three seasons, but when the bookkeepers went, oh God, we gotta have a season 3, it's got to make money. They get Terry Matalas, who was an intern director in Enterprise, worked on Voyager, did 13 Monkeys, the TV series with Todd Satchwick, Captain Shaw. He was co-showrunner in season 2 of Picard, and then when that season didn't go as well, he got promoted to full showrunner, writer, director for season 3, and he went, I never liked the way the last episode of Next Generation ended. That poker game should have been a lot longer. And the Paramount people went, write us a third season of Picard, and we're going to open the checkbook and try to get every.
Okay, that's interesting.
And to hear, in the first person Metalis went and hired was his buddy Todd. They worked with. He's like, I want a Gen Z captain who, is not impressed by anyone's record. I got a guy. When I saw this, I went, my buddy Steven's going to love this. So I'm all excited, talking to him about it. He doesn't like season 1. I'm like, oh crap.
Well, I never made it past the second episode.
Well, that's why. But knowing you, I knew it was going to be an uphill battle because I couldn't get you to watch Lower Decks at this time either.
That's true.
Then you got Lower Decks.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're not enjoying this season as much, but you enjoy the others.
No, but the episode that we watched an episode 2 nights ago, and it's the one where it's all Klingon.
Yes.
Yeah. Now that actually, we quite enjoyed that.
I've picked up new Lower Decks, dropped yesterday on Thanksgiving. Watching it, I now have picked up that those spatial anomalies are all through the season, so there's something coming with that.
Okay.
And then I started talking up Strange New Worlds.
Right.
Tricked you into watching one of those.
Yes.
At TCU, got the Lower Decks, that one merged.
Right.
Y'all became fans. So I'm like, okay, I got to get him to watch season 3 because I've got to talk to him. I got to talk to someone other than my sister about season 3 of Picard because John hates it up here because it's all fan service. And I hate to say I love fan service. If I wanted something original, I'd go watch Space 1999. I don't want anything original.
And
I want, I want to see my next generation. I didn't show up to the Ezra Miller Flash movie to see Flash. I showed up to see Michael Keaton. If you watch the original story, then you could watch the Flash, and we all see how well that worked out.
Right.
So now I've caught our 5 listeners up to date.
4.5.
Well,
I'm not sure about that last guy.
That one guy's missing 2 fingers, so I guess that's a. So now.
Well, okay, so we need to put in the books that at some point we need to do a podcast about Jerry Anderson shows. Because I just had that thought. Because you talked about Space 1999, and I loved that show, and I loved his Supermarionation shows as well. But that'll be another show.
And that's with our friend Dan Moreau over his music, movies, and monsters.
Right.
He did a really good. I learned a lot. I didn't realize it was an Italian production, and that some of it was quite the where we're going to lose our PG rating shit show behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, but
yes, we will come back.
We need to come back to that. So, so we talked about this when we discussed Lower Decks. Much like I think any of the sort of great. And I say great not for quality necessarily, but for size. The sort of great genre entities. You've got Star Wars. You've got Star Trek. You've got Battle of the Planet.
Battlestar Galactica.
Planet of the Apes is actually where I was going with this, but Battlestar Galactica.
But Battle Beyond the Stars was kind of cool.
Battle Beyond the Stars. Oh, I love that movie. We're gonna remake. We're gonna remake a remake, and set it in space, and we're gonna stick George Peppard in there, and he's gonna tell people about hot dogs. I'm in. I'm totally there. So, but Star Trek. What I was looking for here are these entities. Movies, TV shows, comics, books, games, clothing, little tribbles that you squeeze and they go. I made that sound, by the way. That's not special effects. And Star Trek, which we discussed on this previous podcast, Star Trek is very near and dear to me. Star Wars went off the rails during Return of the Jedi. I loved Return of the Jedi the first time I saw it, but I was also, let's see, that was 83, so I was 11 I think. So I was kind of on the cusp of being the perfect age for that. So the first half of Return of the Jedi, I'm like, oh, this is just fantastic. And then the latter half, okay, I'm good. You know, it redeems itself with the lightsaber fight at the end. And then over the years, we all get a little cynical about things and blah, 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 blah. So Star Wars was the end all be all right up until Return of the Jedi, and then a little bit afterwards, and then I kind of moved on to other things. But Star Trek has always been there. You had the original series TV show when I was a kid. You had the movies in the 80s. You had Next Generation in the 80s. And then in the 90s, you start getting more spin-offs. And it just always felt like this nice friend who the quality is fairly consistent up to a point in the 90s. And then it kind of derailed for me. It derailed for me with Voyager and picked up a little bit at the end because, like most heterosexual males and possibly homosexual females, Jerry Ryan's 7 of 9 was like, oh, 7 of Hardy in the silver skin suit. Yep. Flashes of Erin Grey in her skin-tight white suit, and, why not? I'm down with this. So since then, it's very much been kind of a take it or leave it, and usually a leave it thing. So Picard comes out, and I watched the first episode, and the moment I went into this with some trepidation because absolutely nothing on to the great Patrick Stewart. He is an amazing actor, and he is an extraordinarily talented man. But I thought, why are you coming back to this? I know that last Next Generation movie wasn't what it should have been.
Nemesis.
But I think you don't need to put I've got to have a better send-off than that. Because sometimes it just doesn't work that way. For all the crap that Bill Shatner gets for Star Trek V and Generations, well, those are really, those last couple of Kirk outings really sucked. Yeah, you know what? They did. And you know what? Who cares? Because prior to that, you've got hours of content where he's absolutely on point. But anyway, Picard comes along, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll give it a go. And he's there with his dog and his winery, his vineyard, winery. And it's like, oh, okay, well, let's see where this goes. And then there's a scene where Picard is chatting with a big muckety-muck in Starfleet. And the big muckety-muck, I don't remember what the lead into this was.
Was it the Admiral?
I think it's the Admiral,
okay.
Yeah. But she turns to Picard and she says something along the lines of, and this may need to be bleeped out, the fucking hubris of you, or something like that. And I was like, and we're done. Not because I have an aversion to swearing or I have an aversion to language, because I talk like a sailor most of the time. So do my kids now, which is equal parts really disappointing because I feel like I failed as a parent, and on the other half, I think it's hilarious. So, but it just triggered something in my head about, okay, now we're going to get some modern day take on Star Trek. And I have a huge problem with that because I am one of those Roddenberry disciples, one of those devotees to Roddenberry and what he was trying to say. And yes, I can see the first series of Next Generation is a bit of a struggle at times, and the second season doesn't fix that just yet. The show kind of really I really got turned onto that show, I think, on the third series.
I think everyone did. And there was a nice documentary about that talked about how Gene Roddenberry's lawyer was running around trying to run stories and stuff through season 1 and 2. And that's how you lose Gates McFadden. That's how you know, this and that. But I'm going to come back around to that Admiral story.
Okay. So, but I'm like, okay, it's fine. It's the vision is still intact through the 80s and into the 90s, and I'm good with that. But there was something about that exchange and the use of that expletive that I just thought, no, here we're doing. Now, I'm going to put myself out on a little bit of a limb here. Which I may regret, was the fact that Picard has this pit bull for a dog. Now, I know that Patrick Stewart, personally, he's got quite an affinity.
He does rescues.
For
and I know your personal history with your friend and this dog, so I know why that breed turns you off the way it does.
Yeah. So we don't need to go into it here, but for personal reasons, I have too many tragedies in my life regarding that particular breed. And so, but at the same time, I understand I understand the position of, well, it's not the dog's fault. It's the way the dog's been raised or the way the dog's been treated. And yeah, you're quite right. You are quite right. Yes. Okay, fine.
And who knows, one day in your life, you may cross paths with that particular animal that's been treated right.
Oh, well, I have actually.
Okay,
no, this is funny actually, because one of the ladies that I work with, she's got 2 of them and her house is being renovated. So she brought them into work one day. And one of them is kind of a mix, and there's all kinds of things in that one. But one of them, she looks terrifying. She's got the teeth and the jaw, clipped ears, the whole 9 yards. She was a rescue. That dog is just the silliest, most delightful thing. I was having a wonderful time playing with that dog. So yes, even someone as jaded as myself, historically jaded, I see a dog, and my instinct is always, because I love dogs.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, you look like a friendly dog. I love friendly dogs. So here we go. Anyway, but I knew about that. And so you've got that. And I was like, oh, are we going to be injecting some of our own thoughts and ideas into this? I don't know how I feel about that. Then you get to the Admiral scene. Long story short, it's already been a long story. I watched that episode. I watched the second one, and I just thought, no, you know what? I'm not connecting with this at all. I'm really not. This doesn't feel like a continuation of the Next Generation that I fell in love with. And I was a really tough sell on that.
Oh.
I really was. And I just thought, okay, well, this kind of feels like a reboot, not a Battlestar Galactica reboot, which I freaking loved, but instead it was any number of Hollywood reboots. It's frickin' Papillon. Well, I've no interest in that at all, and that's kind of where I went down that road. So,
now I will say, give me credit, because I've been, out of my 3 Star Trek recommendations, I've been right 3 times.
Yes, you have.
Okay.
Quite right.
Now, to me, Picard season 1, and there'll be some spoilers in here. That scene that you ran into, that you didn't like with the Admiral, there's a flashback later where you learn, and I think I said this to you one time, that the only thing I liked about season 1 really was 2. I really liked it when Riker and Troy showed up, and they had a very interesting conversation about raising daughters, because that rings true to me.
Right. Yeah.
And how difficult teenage young ladies can be.
Right.
anyone that's seen season 1 knows that Picard went out on a limb to save the Romulan people.
That's right. Okay.
And that when it failed, he went back with another plan, went to Starfleet, very reminiscent of Star Trek VI with Kirk and the Klingon Empire.
Okay.
And he looked at him and said, we are better than this. We can't let these people die. They've asked for our help. And this time, Starfleet as a whole said, let them die. And he put himself out there, was like, well, if you won't help them, then I'm going to resign. And they went, bye. So that breakdown he has with that news reporter in the first episode.
Right.
You see that now he's getting his feet back under him. He's holding Starfleet accountable for their actions by going, I'm out here doing X unofficially. It doesn't redeem all of it because there are a lot of problems with Picard season 1. If I had to rank him, my favorites 3, 1, and 2, because 2, they went the cheap time travel route and they filmed a lot in San Francisco when everyone could wear jeans, and you're kind of like, okay,
We've done this.
No. But we're gonna snake around that to get to, we changed showrunners twice during the Picard. You changed showrunners 5 times during the first season of Discovery.
Okay.
So there's a lot of chaos. It all calmed down with Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, and season 3.
Right. Okay.
And now it did pull some things. You had to know who the Romulan girlfriend was for Picard at the beginning, and
oh yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, they developed a relationship in the second season, and but then they kind of left it hanging there, and you still don't really, you never know what's going. We never take it back up.
Right.
Too bad, 'cause I was a wonderful actress. She got to do a lot of great work in season 2 as 2 different characters.
Okay.
And I'm told she's done other sci-fi things. I just don't know her names. So forgive me.
Okay.
So we get to season 3. Boom.
Okay.
Steven sits down.
So, one other thing, I got to jump back.
Okay,
just
please do.
Quick second. Starfleet. Yes, I remember now. And Starfleet saying, "Let him die." I didn't like that either, because one thing that I've always been now. Okay, I know how naive this is. This is so naive. It borders on juvenile. It borders on infantile. That a large expanse, bureaucratic agency like Starfleet would not be mired with the same petty, vengeful nonsense that we see in our modern day government. Okay. But I always kind of held out hope that the majority would be that it would be benign, that it would be altruistic, that it would be a force of good. Okay. So in those Star Trek stories prior to this, the one that springs to mind, of course, is the assassination from Star Trek VI.
Chancellor Gorkon.
I'm trying to think of the name of the movie. The Undiscovered Country.
David Warner's.
David Warner's, right. So you've got this conspiracy between Klingons and Starfleet and, no. But those, okay. Those are one-offs. But not the agency as a whole. When you get to Deep Space Nine, and then they start introducing, what is it, Section 31?
Section 31, yes.
The secret black ops kind of a thing. I was like, okay, I'm not happy with this, but I'm a hypocrite because I really, really love William Sadler, the actor, and he was in that. And so I was always like, I don't really like this. But if they're going to put anybody in this role, I really like him. He's a really good actor. So there you go. And I understand they're doing some TV movie, I think, with Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, she's going to.
Okay. I don't know anything about that.
She was in Star Trek Discovery. She played a captain. And then her mirror universe counterpart was the Empress.
Okay.
Hashi Sato's great-grandchild
Okay.
from when Enterprise crossed over and Hoshi took over.
Okay.
And then she hopped into Discovery, into Star Trek Prime Universe. She come to find out that mirror universe people can't stay in the Prime Universe because of physics for longer than a few years.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to go back, and somehow she's going to help straighten out Section 31 somehow.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah.
Picard, season 3, where are we at here? We're at about the half an hour mark, so you kids have waited long enough.
No, your kids got to wait a couple more minutes. When we talk about just the view.
Go ahead.
Here,
We're incorrigible.
Oh, we are. And I will put out, everyone's talked about like Dominion War was against Roddenberry's vision of the future and some other things. I'm going to put out that even back in the original series, every captain that got promoted to Commodore went insane.
Yeah. Okay.
We had one that tried to take over a planet for immortality.
Yes.
We had another one. Now, granted, PTSD, Matt Decker, he sees his crew slaughtered by the planet killer, and he goes rogue there and smacking Spock around verbally and all of that. And then the AI computer, Commodore Leslie, and his fleet gets wiped out by all of that. Then we get the Next Generation. Picard's season 1, Picard's old admiral friend comes in. He's got a bug in the back of his neck with a blue gill sticking out. And he's whomping everyone's ass.
Right.
Riker's Commodore, who probably was in Section 31 with the Pegasus, and they had a stolen cloaking device that could phase through rock.
Right.
Admiral Jellicoe was a Cardassian-hating. Once again, Ronnie, great actor, love his stuff.
Yeah.
He's going in there, and he's, we're going to let Picard rot on this rock. Oh, by the way. So I think Star Trek has a long history. And, in the Dominion War itself, which is brought up in Picard Season 3, they did create a genocidal weapon.
Right.
Biological weapon, and Cisco tricked the Romulans into the war.
Wow. This might end up being a two-parter because by the time we finally get to it, because now you're on one of my favorite episodes.
Oh, we both love the same. We've watched it together.
My gosh,
And so as idyllic as it is, and we've gotten away from currency, but we have the Ferengi. Great, and once again that discussion between Quark and Garrick about the Federation and being root beer,
right,
and how insidious it is, and all of that. Apparently, ad-libbed a little bit. I heard Garfield. I'm sorry, my eyes is bothering me.
No, you're fine, mate. Andrew Robinson.
Yeah, he just talked about. He said they tried to play that as a joke, and Star Trek TV series was notorious for not letting you change lines, and apparently Andy went to him and said, "I want to try something a little more sinister," and read it again. And they played it more, and they ended up liking it. So as idyllic as our Starfleet is, and granted, it's a better world. They're even in Star Trek 6 when there's that conspiracy, that makes all sense in the world to me.
It does.
And this Starfleet wanting the Romulans because the Romulans have tried to blow them up. I mean, the Klingons just tried to invade them. How many times have the Romulans tried to, this thing that can just vaporize matter or whatever?
Sure.
But we're going to get all the way back around. Let's get to season 3.
Okay.
Here we go.
That's what we're here to talk about. So anyway, there is just one more thing. Just one more thing.
In Land of the Giants.
Exactly. Peter Falk. There's an amusing anecdote about Peter Falk. So after much, most times gentle, sometimes almost bordering on hostility, the good Mr. Scott has reminded me that it would be a good thing if I watched Picard season 3. Like I said, most times it's a gentle nudge. There have been a couple of moments there where he's shaking his head like,
I don't talk about that because I know I can't bully Steven into doing anything.
Many have tried. So last Saturday, I think it was, that was the day. This is when my brain works. I woke up, I was going to watch TV, and I was like, oh, okay, Picard season 3. That's what we're doing today. That's how much thought went into this. It was like a couple of seconds, and then next thing I know, I'm watching it. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it. You were correct with you didn't like the first one. You didn't like where that was going. This is much more fan service. Yeah, I can see that.
I don't deny it.
But fan service brings up a certain kind of negative, poor quality connotation when you hear that. I look at this is a love letter. This is an absolute dyed-in-the-wool love letter to what that show achieved during its 7-year run. The movies, okay, there's high points and there's low points. But the show itself, this is something sweet about that. And also all that is good about Star Trek as that great entity that I talked about, or we were talking about half an hour ago. It's exciting, it's engaging, it's quite riveting in places. It suffers from, my only criticism is that it suffers what I think pretty much every TV show seems to suffer from, is that there are moments where the dialogue is just retreading dialogue that we've already had, and it kind of feels like it's not padding, but there's a bit of filler there. When you're trying to tell a single story in the what's the running time of Next Generation? What would be like 40 minutes? Because you have about 20 minutes of ads. Okay. You don't have a lot of time to hang around. Okay. With this, you're trying to tell one story over 10 episodes. There's always going to be that, and I sit there and I always think, well, if they'd cut this, if they did 8 episodes instead of 10, I wonder if it would have been tighter. But that's just me. But this is a minor thing. I did not think I was going to like the Jack Crusher character. That character has grown on me. I did not think I was going to like what they were doing with Beverly Crusher. That is growing on me. Although I still, presumably there's something to come, because they really, I'm 8 episodes in, I've got 2 more to go, and they really haven't addressed what she's doing. They've kind of hinted at it, but there's so much set up around it, I kind of feel like there's a missing piece.
There'll be a little clarity, but not a lot.
Okay.
When they wrap this all up for all of them, everything's very satisfying.
Okay.
So her story, I like that there are times in there where they're like, she stopped talking to us for 20 years. What happened? And I'm going to back up a little. My granddaughter Allie's not a big Star Trek fan. She'll watch Strange New World or New Frontier. Strange New Worlds because the guy from Vampire Diaries plays Kirk. And she's a fan of that.
Okay.
And I told you this the other day when she's watching Picard and Riker. She walked in when they're talking in the bar, and she goes, "This is kind of a heist thing, huh? That's you and Fackler. That's you and Steven. That's you too." And I was like, "So who's Picard?" She goes, "Like, you don't have an accent." I was like, "Okay." And then later on, she saw when Riker's out in the hallway beating up on Jack about, "I've been watching you for 30 years," because you do that to people all the time.
Right,
That's very.
That's funny.
And so now that has been, that has been the thing in there. But Beverly's story, while they don't flesh out every single thing, Jack does recount, when they're in the holodeck, thinking things are going to end. Me and my mother, we did this, we did that. And there'll be, when there's some more revelations in episode 9, is where she makes a reference to, what happened to Wesley Crusher and, how her parenting skills went one way and she tried to do something a certain way and it happened again. And it's something as parents, you and I both been like, well, we tried to do it with this kid and shit happened. Right. So we changed and shit still happens.
Right.
Not on the scale they're dealing with.
No, but I get it. Yeah.
But to me, Michael Dorn steals every scene that he is in.
Okay. So let's talk about the positives, for which there are many, and there are there's a lot of positives, and then there's these great shining
there's
dilithium crystals of joy.
Yeah, and there are plot holes all through this that you said that I could have written myself out of, but I also get they're trying to.
Yes, no, and that's very true. This character that she's the ex-addict, and she's
Michelle Hurd, who's in season 1. That was Picard's first officer.
Okay.
In the Romulan relocation thing, and when he took a stand, she's like, well, I will too. And then went, well, if we don't think he's anything, you're really nothing. And it pushed her. You get to see her journey. And in season 2, her and Seven became a couple. And
okay, that explains a few.
Yeah. So there are some things but they also do a good job of not dwelling on it either in season 3.
So
Worf made a couple of cracks, but
there are some moments with her story on that planet of
you don't understand why
unearthly delight, where what is it, snowing? Is that ash? What the hell? Okay.
Daniel Ryan's.
That seems to go on a bit long, and some of the beats in her character are like, okay.
And that was meant to be a misdirect. If you'd seen the other two, because like in season 2, she was very much, I'm clean, and she was. And it was, so when we're watching her in season 3 for a minute, we're like, what happened? Oh no. What? She's got the smoky eye again. Oh no. And you're getting to miss some of that. So it doesn't really add to
No. It was just some of the dialogue and some of the conversations are like, okay, well,
with her ex-husband, she ran into her son when she was strung out. There were some things in season 1 but Michelle Hurd and Michael Dorn together, their acting, I think, I'm going to let you, I think they just did great.
They are very good together, yeah. Anyway, it's just a personal taste thing. There's a couple of moments there where I was just like, we get it. You're out there on the edge, and okay, we get it. Show, don't tell. There's a lot of telling there. But yes, quite right. Michael Dorn comes in, and that's fantastic. And I very much like that they gave him an opportunity to sort of just be Worf as his own character and not part of the group dynamic. That is something that I've enjoyed very much. And with Worf, I get quite a bit through it, and I'm like, well, is Data ever going to appear? I don't know. I think he was in one of the previous series, which I didn't watch, so I don't know, and da-da-da. And then there is a Data-like character. I don't really know the backstory to that, but I remember Data, and I absolutely remember Lore. So watching Brent Spiner do the Andy Serkis Gollum thing, where he's the evil character 1 second, and then he's the nice character, and then he's the evil character. I'm like, Brent Spiner is just he's just so much fun to watch when he's on, and he is most definitely on. But I have to say, if there's one character on this show that I've just been loving the living heck out of, is Amanda flipping Plummer. Not only is it sweet that because her dad was
Christopher,
was Star Trek 6. He was Chang. She's great. I've always loved her. She has a very, very unique. I was almost said peculiar. She's not peculiar. She's got a very unique acting style. she's got a very, very interesting voice. And when she's doing the soft kind of lyrical
staccato,
very gentle, but every word she's saying is just filled with the horrors to come. Is like, yeah, I mean, Tarantino, from what I understand, Quentin Tarantino wrote the Honey Bunny Pumpkin sequence in Pulp Fiction specifically for Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer. And yeah, because that character that she plays in Pulp Fiction, she's amazing. She borders on sweet and lovely, and then she could go nuts and take you out. And I like that. She's very talented, and so that's been a joy. That's been quite a pleasure to see that. And then flipping hell, man! I almost texted you, Ensign Rowe. They got freaking Ensign. I was like, now that was because I remember when they introduced that character on Next Generation. My roommate Carl was a huge Star Trek fan, so we always watched Star Trek Next Generation. He would videotape them, and he would sit there and self-edit out the commercials, and we just had a wonderful time. And I remember when Ensign Rowe was introduced, he did not care for Rowe much. And I was like, oh, this is what this show needs. We need the sort of feisty female. I like him this. This is going good. And then she was gone. And it was like, oh, well, okay. Well, that didn't go very far. I understand, or rather I believe that there was a thought that she might occupy the Nana Visitor role.
That was originally originally crafted for her. She was committed to whatever crime drama show Michelle Forbes was doing at the time. And you listen to her. I almost feel like that she just Star Trek at that point in time was just a job for her.
Right.
And so she went with the Maquis. For those of y'all who followed the novels, they actually brought her back into Deep Space Nine. After Cisco left, she ended up running the thing.
Okay.
So they developed her character in there. But yes, in there, bringing her back. And my sister and I were talking about this, the way Picard was reacting to her. And they encapsulate exactly what happened with her career,
Yep.
All this. My sister was like, were they ever lovers? And it's kind of it's hinted, and I was like, I don't know, even though they're trying, it's like, well, you just let me down. There's a lot of people who've let me down that I can be a little catty with, but I'm not.
Yes.
But there's something.
There is something there.
And I know Jean-Luc has high moral standards, so a lot of people have disappointed him in life. Even Will Riker did.
Yes.
They're in the Pegasus, right. Not this.
This feels a little personal.
And they didn't go into it either way, which is fine. But yes, she came back. She nailed every.
Oh, she's so good.
And then the way they tied into that she's Worf's handler.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Brilliant. And then when they get to Daystrom Station, and they're walking around there.
Right. Yes.
Kirk's body.
No, we're going to have to come back to that one because I really want to know what you think about that. But all the freaking Genesis device.
Yes.
I had to go because they have their little chat and then they move past it. And I'm like, what? Hold on a second. What the hell was that? And so I had to rewind it, and I'm kind of looking at what's written on the screen. I'm like, that looks like the word Genesis. Oh, and it hit me. Like there was a delay there. Like, what the hell is... Oh, man.
And if you...
Lovely.
And well, you never saw Nemesis, right?
Star Trek
Nemesis. Okay.
No, I didn't.
So one of the first things you see when you walk in, there's this little spiral-looking thing coming out of the ambulance. That was the all organic eradicator device that the main villain in Nemesis had that wiped out the Romulan Council.
Okay.
So other than the killer Tribble, everything was tied to a movie. But yes, so you're like, okay, this used to be Section 31's Deep Dark. Once again, not finishing out season 1 of Picard. Alton Soon, that you see the video of, he was in there. He's the one that got Picard into the positronic body that he's in, and he was working on trying to straighten out the data thing.
Okay.
So you get that there was 2 Gollum bodies, but Picard in one. I guess he created this one for Data with Lol, the daughter he created from Next Generation.
Yeah.
And then his own engrams.
Okay.
But that's how he got through there. But then when, the little guy that played Moriarty.
That was great.
He was off doing nothing, didn't even thought about this for years. And they're like, hey, do you got half a day to come do this? And it shows me that Terry Matalas gets it when the security identification program to decide whether they're going to eliminate or not is Riker's Pop Goes the Weasel or whatever that there's whistling. Right. That even at first I'm like, why am I listening to this? And that was
fun. That whole episode is just super fun. They go to the museum that Geordi is.
Oh, the Fleet Museum.
Fleet Museum with all the different ships, and I'm like, that's great. And it's funny you talked about Commodores. When they say that he's Commodore LaForge, the first thought that went through my mind was, oh, he's going to go crazy.
Yeah, he's a nut.
I did have that thought.
He is the only Commodore that hadn't cracked up on the show. But were you a fan of Enterprise?
I saw some of it and it was okay, but I never really connected to it.
Season 5, the ship was supposed to get a secondary hull.
Okay.
In the Fleet Museum, Archer's Enterprise has a secondary hull that they never got to do. And Matalas talked about, he had to show you, you had to look at it for just a second. But I did spend time in every ring going, okay, what is it? The New Jersey, the Constitution class, that's because Matalas is from New Jersey. So he just got to name a ship.
The HMS Bounty, that put a big smile on my face. The whole thing, that whole sequence. Yes.
And during that, when they kept changing theme songs, when they were talking about each ship, when 7 got to hers, you heard the Voyager theme.
Right.
And I thought that was brilliant, that every, we talking about Kirk's Enterprise, it started with the motion picture, and then you heard the more modern Star Trek 2, 3, 4, 5, how they, and I was like, you get it.
Yes.
You understood that. So.
Yeah. No, like I said, it's
the Fleet Museum excited the shit out of me.
It really, I loved that. And that's why I say this is a love letter. This is not fan service. I think this is a love letter.
In LaVar's performance with his daughter, with his own daughter.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Okay. So the navigator, Sydney, actress, his adopted daughter now. The other one, the engineer, that's his real life daughter. That was part of his contract negotiations, is he wanted to appear with her because they were going to have an ensign.
Okay.
So that's really his daughter in real life.
That's brilliant.
And when I forget her name, forgive me. She talked about there's times when she would say something to her adopted sister, we're like, well, you know how dad is? She goes, that's a real, I've said that to my other siblings. Well, you know how dad, there was a lot of just, imagine you and one of your kids filming something together, playing that role. Just the way LaVar played that scared father.
So he's gotten older. He's got a family. He's got children that are in the family business. Yes. Okay. And he's lost some of that tenacity because, like all parents, you do, especially if your children are going into environments or career choices or what have you that you are familiar with, and you know what's coming. You know the things that they are going to potentially deal with. My youngest works at the Multiverse Comics shop. I I can tell you, Scott, that when she started, there were some moments where I was kind of reluctant to leave her alone in the shop.
No, I remember some of those moments.
Because it's not a stereotype. It's not a generalization. It's a fact that thankfully is few and far between. But some comic book gamer guys, there's a reason why they are single and will be single probably their whole lives. So yeah, you do kind of get that. Boy, we might need to edit this one. I'm going to end up pissing everybody off out of this one.
Well,
but his scene through the glass with Brent Spiner, where he's breaking down over Data's death, I'm like, see, man, he's got it. They're all so on point with the acting, and I think that show for season 3 needed it. Not that Patrick Stewart is not at his best. He's not actually, no, he is not at his best. He's age, it creeps up on us all. He's doing absolutely fine, but I think it benefits from seeing what time does, not just to him, not just Picard, but also Riker. The conversation they have about the death of his son, and why that too has affected Riker's thinking on certain things.
Because
Picard's pushing,
and I'm glad to talk about that in the space battle scenes. I don't remember Picard being that aggressive.
No, he wasn't.
And I remember Riker being more.
Yes,
and so
they have
there's
swapped.
a role. And
they have. They just found.
One thing I want to go back to LaVar Burton when he walks in and looks at Jack and's like, "Go talk to my daughter."
Yes,
resonated.
Oh yes.
Well, we'll go back to that. But there's also something subtle about Patrick Stewart's performance. Terry Matalas talks about this, and Patrick talks about this. There are several times, and you haven't gotten to the end yet, where Picard has to sit in a particular command chair. And because of the shaken confidence and things, there's times he stoops, there's other things, but as he gets closer to the end, you've already seen some of this. I showed it to you on YouTube one time. When he's back in the Enterprise D's command chair, you can't tell a difference from the Next Generation show, because now he's more, he's in the, even though he finished out in the E,
yes,
in the D, you can see it. He's much more confident, much more direct. He is sitting straighter. There's even times when he is carry himself now as an actor. You probably didn't have to do that for very long, but there is when you think about that and you go back and rewatch it, you will see, there was a more casual when he's on Shaw's bridge sitting off to the side, or in the one, he's in the chair for just a minute over here, but it's building to, he is back, this brief moment back reunited with his first love.
Yes.
That for that intense moment, that is Captain Picard season 5, 6, and 7.
Right.
And all the swagger and they all kind of fall. There's a bridge scene where they're all kind of right where, like, oh, this is where they should be.
Right.
And I'm putting that back onto your brain. Watch as
I will.
to that point.
It's the character studies are very enjoyable. No, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I mean, tomorrow I will. My plan is, as is what I do on Saturday mornings, when I get up ridiculously early because my dog will insist upon being taken for a walk as soon as, just prior to the crack of dawn. My wife and children are asleep. I have the house to myself. I watch things. I'm watching Picard. But yeah, no, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And there is a part of me that's like, well, maybe I'll go back and give season 1 and season 2 a go, just to kind of put everything in context. But I also know that I'm only about halfway through Strange New Worlds, and I'm enjoying that. So I'd kind of like to...
I would recommend finishing up Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
yes, go back and watch Picard when now the expectations are not
Right.
because in season 1, the data makeup is horrible.
Okay.
You know, you can tell it's an older guy in the makeup when they're using him and trying to resolve things. I love what they did for Brent Spiner, who didn't, you know,
Yes.
apparently instead of 19 hours in the chair, this is like 30 minutes to get him ready. And I could just sit and watch Brent Spiner do stuff all day long.
Oh yeah. No,
he's
wonderful, fantastic. We're
getting ready to wrap up.
We're getting ready to wrap up. So, I said we'd circle back to this. Why is Kirk's skeleton at the Daystrom Institute?
It's funny we mention this right now
Okay.
because we just know that new CGI film that was backed by the Nimoy family
Right.
and the Roddenberry Institute, which Shatner was involved with, along with Sam Witter, who did the young version. So I'm going to say that at the time, if you watch all through, there's 3 of them. There's one called Memory Wall, which is in the cage, there's a red-headed yeoman that was taken by the Thelosians as well, opposite of number 1. She looks like she's in section 31 recounting some things.
Okay.
It's very quick. You don't really know what's going on. Then you have Spock kind of traveling through his different iterations on the second part. The third part is that they are there retrieving the saucer section of the Enterprise off Iridium 3.
Okay.
And Spock is there at the burial site of Kirk. I think at that point in time, because Kirk was just under a bunch of rocks, and in the last 2 episodes of Picard, they talk about the Prime Directive and how they had to go recover the saucer section.
Okay.
Because that planet was developing and uninhabited, but the system still had the life forms. You have an alien buried on your planet.
Okay.
So you're going to have to retrieve it. Now, why he's not buried on his farm in Iowa and in Section 31's vault, Terry Matalas actually said that if he was going to get another season of a Picard-like show, that he remembered the books that Shatner wrote about Kirk's reincarnation through Borg technology.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, Bill couldn't do what I want to do, but they keep talking about the guy that's from Vampire Diaries and Strange New Worlds, reprising a Kirk-like role. There's also talk in the Strange New World universe of letting Ethan Peck, the guy that's playing Kirk, and these other ones finish out the 5-year mission. 2 more seasons.
Okay.
To transition in the movie because they've gotten such a positive result.
Yeah.
Then once again at Paramount, they change department heads every 3 months.
Yeah.
So the people that were all about Star Trek have all been fired. Now others have come back.
Okay.
So I don't have a definitive answer why Kirk's there, but now that you've seen they had to retrieve the saucer section, they talk about the Prime Directive. I get why they had to get the body off of there,
Right.
but I don't know, unless they were scared of Kirk being cloned or something, But there's also some, is Pike's body in there? Is, if you think about it, how many dead captains can you have?
Oh yeah, I mean this is the warehouse from Raiders of the Lost Ark that you see again.
That Matalas references that.
Oh, okay.
That he was like, yeah, that's kind of the way he wanted to treat it.
Yeah.
Because you're also going to learn why they had Picard's body. In season 9 and 10, there's going to be a long explanation. You're going to be like, oh crap, Terry, you really did read
Right.
all. So
That's interesting.
I can poke holes in that too, but for the universe you're trying to create with season 3, it makes all the sense in the world.
Right. It's just like,
because you brought the Changeling back. I mean,
Yes.
Picard, Next Gen never dealt with the Changeling, so that was, neither did Voyager. It was nice when Jerry Ryan's walking around going, what's a Changeling? Yeah, I've heard about it, and I was like, oh, it's this.
Well, if they can, as you say, Paramount seems to...
All these streaming services are in flux all the time.
Come and go in the wind.
I mean, it gives hope that you and I could get a job there, and we could finish it.
I could can dig out that screenplay for Star Trek V that I wrote shortly after seeing Star Trek IV when I was, 12, 13 years old.
And I've got that massive property crossover idea that I want to try.
No, that's not going to happen, Scott. And you know all the reasons why. But that's another podcast.
Yeah, that's another podcast. Well, once again, Treks and Trekkers, thank you for indulging in our, usually these are just 30 minutes when we're talking about comics, but they're, these, we two old men here can sit there and,
oh, yeah.
I mean, we could probably do an 8-hour podcast. And if I thought any of y'all could pay attention or listen to it, we might give it a try. But
I don't know that the
you and I could talk.
computer's going to hold
Well,
that.
I can get a powerful of that because you and I could talk for 8 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Easy.
I mean, that's it. Well, I'm going to stop now and then we'll just carry on.
That's it. Well, once again, we're, day after Thanksgiving. Hope y'all had a great holiday and everything.
Yeah.
Appreciate you as always entertaining us, our egos, thinking that you give a flip about our subject matter and us bouncing all over the place. We appreciate each and every one of y'all.
Absolutely.
As I thump the table again.
Absolutely. And
until the next time, once again, Stephen and Scott in the mornings, night.
See, I was going to go with something more appropriate like live long and prosper. But no, we'll go with yours.
Thank you for listening to the Multiverse Comics podcast. If you'd like to come and visit us in person, you can do that at the Multiverse in Hurd, Texas. If you'd like to shop with us online, you can do that at www.multiverse.shop. Till next time, keep reading comics.